Hey team, how's it going? Alright, so for today we're going to go through the process of setting up our character. The rig's already built. I'm going to apply the rig to the mesh, the character mesh, and I'm going to show you all the details that we need to do for this part of the process. Alright, so let's get started. First, let me turn off my mesh, show my joints. Here are all my joints. I'm going to turn off my controllers as well. Alt 1, Alt 2, you can toggle your controllers and your mesh visibility on and off. So here, let me get my controllers off. Here I'm going to select basically the hierarchy, which is the root, this middle joint here, for the character. Then I'm going to turn on my mesh, select my mesh, and then from there I'm going to go to skin. I'm going to go ahead to go bind skin, click here, it says select joints. I'm going to go to joint hierarchy and apply. This will apply all the bones in the hierarchy of the character to the mesh. So now if I select the mesh, select point joints or paint joints, it will show all the joints that are painted onto this character or to the mesh, onto the mesh. Now I personally like the black and gray scale when painting weights, but there is an option to have the color scale, which will tell the different variations of what skin weight belongs to who. If you need the color version or would like to use the color version, you go down here to your gradient and you can use color ramp and it will show all the different colors. Now that we got that set up, we're going to go through and partially skin it, but before we skin it, I'm going to go ahead and take you through what I call the ROM. This is range of motion. We're going to do the range of motion of all the controllers on the characters so that when the character is being skinned and the fine details, we don't have to keep jumping out of the skin weights and back into it to make our adjustments or to see our adjustments. So I'm going to give you let's get out of skin mode. For right now, we don't need the joints to actually be seen. Just to turn off the joints. I just went to show, clicked on joints to turn those off. I'm going to go here and select on my surface object, click that. So I don't select on any objects in the scene except for what I want, which is the controllers. And it's real briefly going to show you what I would do with the arm. And you're going to want to do this method with all the controllers. So what I would do is drag, select all the controllers, set a key on frame 0, then go to frame 5, set another key, and say go every 10 frames all the way up to 200 frames. But for this small portion, I'm just going to go up to 25. Okay, maybe not. I lied. 30. Lied again. 35. Alright, go up all the way to 35. And what I've done here is I set a key on every controller. So now I'm going to go in between all these keys and just move one little part. So start with the arm. I'm going to move the arm. I'm going to move it, say, put it to the front. Go to the next set of keys right here. Now I'm going to move the elbow. Next set of keys here, move the wrist. Next set of keys right here, move the other arm. Same thing, elbow, wrist. And then for good measure, I'm going to rotate the head. Look at all strengths. So the reason I'm doing this is you create a range of motion, and then like I said, when you're skinning, you can just scrub on the timeline to see if you are getting the correct weight, skin, and whatnot. Just a quick example. If I were to select the mesh that I can't turn on right now, go to paint skin weights, and I'm going to look at the arm. And since I'm in my skin weights, I can easily just drag my timeline to sort of see. Let's see, where's the arm at? It's clavicle. Right arm, and I want to make adjustments, make sure they're good on the shoulder, because the clavicle and shoulder are having the same weight. So I want to make sure just my shoulder or my clavicle is not affecting this portion of it. So if I was to move the clavicle, that would move. For an example, like, oh, since I didn't do anything on the clavicle and I want to see how much that affects that arm, I would have to jump out, press control or bring up my controllers, and then sort of drag to see how much the clavicle is going to affect this controller. Which if I put this controller, oops. So instead of doing that, everything is paint skin weights. It's already on the timeline, all my movement that I want, so I can adjust things there. This way I don't have to go back and forth, back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and once that's all set up, we can go into our somewhat final skinning to get the character skinned the way we want it to, and then push on other things. Alright. Alright, so here's the finished product of the ROM. I have the arms, the head, the finger, all the good stuff going. Now I can go in and fine tune my my skinning, and this will be real brief on how to skin some of the aspects and how the way I go about skinning the character. So I want to turn off my controllers because I don't need them. Give myself some more space. Middle mouse click, go to paint skin weights. I have all what I want to do. The first biggest thing I want to do is I want to skin everything to my root, just all of it. So I want to go all the way down here and make sure it's on paint mode and hit flood, and everything turns white. That means everything is skinned to this one joint. And then from there, I'm just going to go ahead and lock everything else. So I'm just going to drag, click the very top, drag select, hit here, and make sure everything is locked. You may have to go in individually just to make sure everything is locked, just to double check. But for the most part, if you click one, drag, you don't drag, but you click the top, then click the last joint, and it's just select them all, and then press the little lock here. It locks. That'll lock the skin weights, so nothing can be affected except for what you want to work on. And the first thing I'm going to work on is the left arm, which will be this arm. I get my left and right mixed up quite a bit. I'm going to my right clavicle under my spine, or my left clavicle. See that? Alright, and right now I'm just going to go with these three arms, or these segments in the arm joints. Oh, and nothing obviously is skinned, so I'm just going to unlock the shoulder portion, and obviously the root stays unlocked. I want to go out into my mesh mode, right click, face, and that I want to be able to select the mesh, just the faces of the mesh, and that allows me to just double click on the mesh. Wow. And I can select all of the mesh that's attached to that geometry. So now that I got all this selected, I'm going to go into right click, paint skin weights, go to that arm, which is the shoulder, hit flood, and now it's basically got all the skin weight onto that arm. And if you look at the root motion, where everything used to be skinned to, is now no longer has that skin weight on there. So now with the arm, I'm just going to go ahead and lock it, so it locks the weight onto this one, and it can't come back onto that one by mistake. Go back to object mode, and then go to face, and move on to the next segment of the arm, which I want to have the forearm, this geometry right here. So it's like paint skin weights, go down to, I believe it would be the elbow. I'm going to unlock it, flood it, and now that portion's skinned. Now I want to do the same thing with this portion, and just for for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to select the whole hand, so the whole wrist you can sort of see move, because right now you got your arm, your elbow, shoulder, all that's moving. So I'm going to get out of there, go to object mode, select my mesh, select the face, double click here. I'm just going to drag select, Then double check, make sure that's all selected. Go to paint skin weights, unlock my elbow, which I just done, and go to the wrist, click on that. Okay, so now I just got to make sure you're on the right controller here. Added the skin weights to this particular portion on the arms, and now that skin, go ahead and lock that so I won't make that mistake again. Now all three of my segments are skinned, and now I'm going to do the same for the rest of the character. So I'm going to go ahead and close out that and go to object mode. Alright, so now that I have this left side of me skinned, left side of the character skin, I'm going to go to skin, mirror skin weights, go to the dialog box, and open up skin weights, and look at these settings. This is what you want your settings to be on. You can have the YZ axis, go positive to negative. In the closest joint, go ahead and apply, and if it doesn't work right off the bat for whatever reason, if it's turned a different way, just go ahead and keep adjusting it until you get it correct. I'm going to go ahead and apply. Obviously you don't see anything, but if I scrub through and check, I see my fingers are now moving on the right side and move on the left side. Let's look at my whole range of ROM, and for the most part everything looks pretty good. Just go ahead and press play. Looks like I got something in the fingers over here. Yeah, I got a stretched mesh right here. Overall, not too shabby. That looks like an easy fix. Alright, with that, if you select the very top root node, you shouldn't see anything, either if you're using color or if you're using the grading of black and white, anything selected. And go ahead, and from here now, you want to just go ahead and move the waist. Oh, I'm in component mode. Make sure there's nothing else that's going on that you can see. Character animates. You're pretty much done with that aspect of things. So from here on out, you know that you can just come back to this file just to check your weighting and everything else. Make sure it's good. So now that we're done with the overall rigging of the character, we got the character set up, we put the joints on, we have the mesh skin to the joints, and now we have our articulation and then all of our arms and our joints for our ROM, range of motion, to sort of test our skinning. So when we're testing our skinning, we need to make sure we test the fingers, the elbow, the waist, the spine, the feet, the head, and just the overall motion of the character. You want to throw a few poses on it, you want to try a few animations, and to make sure nothing stands out where geometry is not supposed to be moving. When certain segments are moving, you can easily correct those things. Alright, so that concludes this portion of this project, and I'll see you on the next projects where we continue to work on this character and start on our idle pose.